Marcia Lucas perfectly explains what the sequels got wrong and what the Mandalorian got right. Marcia Lucas is George Lucas's ex-wife, and she did a lot that a lot of people don't know about for the original trilogy. She chopped up the whole thing of episode 4 and essentially put the Force back into the movie, literally, because George wanted to cut it out. So I guess this is a new interview that just happened, so let's go ahead and watch it.
Am I delighted with the films that Disney's made? Not really. Do I like Mandalorian? Yes, I think Mandalorian's great. I really like it. It's a good show.
What does Mandalorian get right that the new films got wrong?
Well,
I'm asking you as an editor, I'm asking you as the person I think who poured the heart into the franchise. What does it get? Because I'm with you. Like, I'll never watch the new ones again, ever. And I'm not crazy about the prequels, but I do not loathe them.
No.
I do loathe the new ones.
Yeah.
Right on. Here we go. Okay. Marcia Lucas also, and I did mean that George had doubts of leaving the Force, this mystical Force, in the trilogy, in the original trilogy. And Marcia Lucas was like, no, you have to put that back in. She edited it back in. And when it was time to show the full thing, she couldn't go back and take it out because it was too late. And George was like, well, I guess. Imagine that. And she's always been extremely candid with how she feels about people and things. And I really respect her.
But I love Mandalorian. What is it that makes it work for you?
The story. You take a character out of Star Wars, and he's a bounty hunter. And he gets paid to go collect this little baby. And then when he collects the baby, he falls in love with the baby. And he misses him when he has to turn him in. And he goes back and he rescues the baby. And that story between that bounty hunter, right? Soldier of fortune, you never see his face, he's wearing a mask, and his affection for that little baby is what drives the story forward. And what drives the story forward is that every week they have an adventure trying to get back to the baby's planet, where the baby came from, where
It's also a big deal that the baby is a baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda.
Which, there you go, which George always said Yoda, you don't want to know much about him because it takes away his mysticism. He's like this really cosmic sort of wizard that just comes in and out of the scene when he needs to drop a little bit of wisdom, and that's it.
What it came from, find his people, and Mandalorian wants to find other bodies, other people like him. So you've got this metal man, this body hunter, and this baby Yoda, this little green thing with big ears, going off on all these adventures together. Mm-hmm. And they're good adventures. All the things they encounter. I mean, that's what happened in Star Wars. Star Wars had ice planets and cloud planets and desert planets and,
That was a major qualm that George Lucas had with the sequel trilogy, was that he said it a million times, that they just want to do the same thing.
Why does everyone want to go back to Jakku?
He's like, I like to go to different planets. I like to go to different places, but they just want to go to the same places.
All kinds of different planets. So that just is a good story. It's a good story. What I don't care for the sequels, because there was no need to kill Harrison Ford.
I've never heard
Why
this.
kill Han Solo, the beloved character Han Solo? Why? And then at the end of The Last Jedi, they let Luke disintegrate, so they kill off. Luke should have stuck around to be the new Obi-Wan, the new Yoda, the new Jedi Master, to teach the young people, right? They don't think story anymore. We're not thinking.
That's funny though. That's what Mandalorian's doing.
They're telling a story.
Yeah. And I don't know if I don't want to spoil it for you. If are you up to date?
No, I'm not.
Oh.
I'm not.
Let's change the.
No, I'm
change the
not.
topic. You should keep watching. You should watch Book of Boba Fett. And you could actually probably skip the first 4 episodes.
Oh, right.
But starting in episode 5, I think you'll like it quite a bit.
Oh yeah, the Mando episodes, which I think were episode 6. But that's probably what he says. I'd say the first 2 episodes of Book of Boba Fett were great. If there is one person, a lot of people say, oh, it's Dave Filoni, who knows Star Wars is second in line after George, it's Marcia Lucas. It's definitely Marcia Lucas. And then after her, I would say, or on par with her, would be Roger Christian. The stories Roger has and the things he knows about the original trilogy, I mean, he was right there with Marcia. He was right there with George when they were building this or when they were starting out. I mean, he created the first lightsaber, for God's sakes. You know, the guy knows everything that George was thinking to be the set decorator and then to be the second unit director for episode 1.
They start getting good. Yeah, they
Well,
tell
they do, but let's just say you're a good idea. Someone else.
Star Wars is such a good story.
Yeah, new vlog, by the way. Yeah, you know, this is really cool. I didn't know that she was doing an interview of some sorts. Marcia Lucas perfectly explains what's wrong with the prequels. Uh-oh, we might want to watch that one after. I didn't know she was doing interviews and stuff. Hold on. I got to go through this whole thing and watch it because she's an extraordinary woman, and she's very intelligent.
Who are you?
And she knows exactly what Star Wars is, and I bet you nobody's going to call her sexist for saying that she didn't like the sequel trilogy, are they? So when it comes to the sequels, I mean, yeah, we've been saying it for so many years, and so many of us have been called, including by Disney people, racist or sexist or whatever it might be, which is everything they want to throw at you if you don't toe in line, if you don't agree with them. And it's this really low IQ argument that they throw just because they can't come up with any actual evidence or reason as to why the film is actually not good, which we give them, but they don't want to accept it. So it's totally acceptable to have different opinions, and I'm all for that. But I also don't believe in name calling when you just don't agree with the other person if they're being cordial and respectful to you. So Marcia Lucas's thoughts on that is pretty interesting. See what she says perfectly wrong with the prequels.
What's wrong with the prequels?
Story. I think the storylines are confusing, and I think they're so full of special effects and, you know, all the what do you call them, the computer-generated characters. I mean, I like real humans. I mean, I love robots, and I love Mandalorian, and I love all those characters, but they seem to be vacant of human relationships with humans. I think. I'm not sure. I saw the first one because a friend of mine who worked I never got invited to any screenings ever after I left. But a friend of mine was working at ILM, and she invited me to one of the screenings of the first prequel he made. And after I saw the movie, I went out and I sat in my car and I cried. Because I was so sad. Because of all the characters the stories he could have told. He could have told the young Luke Skywalker, how did the twins get separated? How did he get separated from his sister? He could have told, you know, so many stories were there. The young Obi-Wan, the young Harrison, Han. I mean, he had all these characters that he could have gone back in time and told, and yet he wanted to tell the story of Anakin Skywalker, who becomes Darth Vader. Only it doesn't make sense. And that the casting was so bad. The little boy looked like he was 6 years old, and this woman that he's supposed to have a romance with or something, the princess, looks like she's 20 years old. And I thought, just nothing worked for me. It didn't work. I didn't see human relationships. And there's a scene where the mother has to say goodbye to her son.
So Anakin was 9, Padme was 14. But yeah, I mean, Jake Lloyd did look really young. He looked like he was, 6.
Man, would I have liked to have cut that scene? I mean, I would have edited the scene. I would have showed emotion on their faces and emotion on her face and emotion on the boy. Instead, the scene is just, sorry, you have to leave, and off he goes. And there was no heart in the scene. There was no heart in that scene where the mother has to say goodbye to her son. I mean, that's just an example of...
I could see her point. Especially from a woman's perspective, saying goodbye to your son, it's going to be a little bit different than a father saying goodbye to his son. So it's like the way George shot that or edited that, I could see what she's talking about.
I don't like those movies very much.
There's a scene before that, which to me, first of all, my opinion is identical to yours about the films. There's a moment in the film right before that scene where they're all having dinner or lunch, and Anakin says to, what's his name? Hey, why don't you free us? And what's his name? Gong Quinn, I forget.
Who's this interviewer, bro?
The name of the actor who plays him. Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
Liam Neeson, who is a Jedi Knight, literally responds to an 8-year-old boy, we're not here to free slaves. And I'm like, I remember sitting in the theater being like...
Well, I mean, that's totally justifiable. They're on their own mission. They can't get sidetracked to now start doing a side quest of like freeing slaves on some random planet that they crashed on. How many other planets would they have to go to then to do the same sort of thing? That just derails the story. And as Jedi, they are there to protect the Queen. They're there to do their duty and their job. They weren't told by the Council or by the Senate to get sidetracked and then save an entire, like episode 9, where they start freeing all of the animals. or was that episode 8? I don't know. Anyways, you see what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, maybe they could have gone back and done it. And they did in the books and stuff like that. They tried to go back. But all of the slaves, all of it was owned by Hutts. And for the Jedi to get involved in that would cause a very big war and issue with the crime syndicates, with the underworld, and the Jedi. And then there would be probably terrorist attacks on Coruscant, on wherever, different worlds, for now this war that has been going on because Qui-Gon Jinn landed on a planet when he was supposed to take the Queen back and eventually found this kid and then decided to free a whole bunch of a community of slave kids. It's like, well, that'd be nice, but that's not what he was told to do.
You're a Jedi. Aren't you all freeing slaves and doing shit like that?
Right.
But anyway, so what do you think happened? Because,
What do I think happened? I think I left. I do. And I think that George got so overwhelmed with his abilities, his virtual abilities to do these special effects and create these computer-generated characters, that I think he fell in love with computer-generated characters and his ability to generate by computer and not have to have human directors directing human beings.
I don't know. There were more models on the prequel trilogy than there were on the original trilogy. I don't know if she knows that. She might not. I don't know if she's watched all the behind the scenes or, the making of and all that stuff, but maybe not. But I do agree that, yeah, George, he did go crazy with the VFX, and that was what he wanted to do. In fact, he wanted to start with episode 1. But the technology wasn't there. And he also said that he didn't like starting a story right at the beginning. He likes to throw you right in the middle of it.
Sometimes that doesn't even happen anymore. They put a character in a set, and anyway, it's kind of weird what's happening in the virtual, digital world. But I think because he had all that other stuff going on. He was still building more things at Skywalker. He was still probably writing, was my understanding from what I heard. Again, what I heard was that George had written a script for a sequel script.
Yes.
And that Disney didn't like it, and they put it in the toilet and brought in another writer. And
yep, exactly what they did. And in fact, George was starting episode 7. A lot of people don't know this, and I know this from insiders. He was starting episode 7. Like, he had already gotten, Carrie and Mark on board and all that stuff for episode 7. And his plan was to finish 7 and then sell it to Disney. But then he was told by Disney that they would do his episode 7. So he's like, okay, well, cool. I'll just be around and help them. They bought his treatments and they locked them away. And then they never used them. And they did their own junk.
It's not fair.
And he was never consulted whatsoever on any of the sequels. But I think those prequels, he was just playing more with visuals and computer-generated characters than the movies had a lot of eye candy.
I do think if Marcia Lucas if they had worked on their relationship and they had made it work, or however they could do that if it was possible, or if she had stayed on Star Wars, I do think that she would have potentially been a whisper in his ear on certain things and brought out more of either the Force or emotion or a different style and something maybe more akin to the original trilogy, so it would have landed better with some of the original trilogy fans. I mean, as a kid, I loved the prequels. And even before it got popular again here, I was constantly pushing prequel trilogy, talking about the prequels, talking about Anakin. You guys might not remember, but back when 2016, 17, 18, 19, and 2020, up until 2021, I was getting made fun of a lot just online, for having, Anakin cardboard cutout behind me, or talking about prequels all the time and how Anakin was my favorite character and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, he started becoming popular again. And now it's cool to like the prequels. But, I think that if she was involved, then it would have been more palatable for some of the older guys that were watching Star Wars.
Visual. But there's not any real human on human stories that really work or move you or you care about.
I liked the prequels. I didn't have an issue with them. But I can see what she's saying, especially as someone who worked on the originals and was that close to being George's wife. The things they probably discussed while making episode 4, that it was next level. Like no one will ever know that deep of Star Wars as she will, next to George. So I personally think that if anyone has any possible credibility when it comes to criticizing anything of the prequel trilogy or original trilogy or anything, it's going to be Marcia Lucas. It's totally unfortunate, and I hope that a lot of people will start to see, especially like sequel trilogy defenders and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, you might like it, but you have to also recognize that a lot of people, including George Lucas's ex-wife, who worked on Star Wars and edited it so that it would be what it is today and what it was then, also didn't like the sequel trilogy at all. I forget the interviewer. She didn't like it. I know for a fact George did not like the sequel trilogy. He's never going to come out and say that because George never comes out and says what he likes or what he didn't like, especially when it comes to, something he signed off on a long time ago with Star Wars. So, it'd be great if the fandom that Disney has made now also respects some of the opinions of people who came before them. Some of the people who like the older stuff that George made and are hoping that Star Wars will return back to what it once was, which is George Lucas Star Wars.